Greetings, schools, and welcome back to another deep dive into horror television. Tonight we're checking out the episode Darkness from the wonderful but short-lived series Night Visions. We begin this tale at a sprawling estate, a 12-bedroom, 4-bathroom mansion far bigger than any one person could comfortably occupy. The funny thing about the house is there are lamps scattered like crazy through every room. A woman checks in on a man named Mr. Winston. She can't find him at first, but when she does, it looks horrible, like the man was eaten alive by animals. We cut to another man. This one is a telesalesman. His name is Harlow Winton, and he's in for a surprise when he opens up a piece of mail and reads that his great-uncle died and he has just inherited quite a few assets. One catch: he's got to fly in and visit the estate himself. Harlow wasn't aware of his great-uncle's existence until now, so he's really surprised to find out that he's the last living relative of the man, and Harlow has inherited everything. Of course, there's another condition. Harlow must live inside the house to receive a monthly payment of $25,000, and the house looks like the one from the opening scene where bad stuff happens. So let me ask you this. Would you live in a 12-bedroom mansion for a monthly allowance of $25,000? Adjusting for inflation, that would be closer to about $40,000 per month today. Sounds like a great place to set up and make horror videos if you're asking me. So all of this sounds great. You learn that there's been special wiring installed that makes every light in the house switch on and off with the press of a remote button. We're also shown the light bulb closet, which is important in this crazy place. We learn that Harlow's family once employed every working person in town. His uncle was disgustingly wealthy. They owned coal mines, factories, and railroads. His family's wealth was built on exploiting workers, and many died to enrich his family. Harlow knows a thing or two about being an exploited worker himself. He's self-aware enough to know that the townspeople will certainly hate him. The lawyer points out that the upkeep of the house will require plenty of staff, which will hurt his bottom line. He also mentions that if he were to donate the house to the town, it could relieve a great deal of his tax burden. Harlow is having none of that. Donate the mansion? Before throwing a wild party in it first? Heck no. So Mr. Maxon lets himself out, and Harlow starts unpacking his stuff. He's nearly scared to death when he sees a nasty, ripped-apart dead rat in his dresser drawer with the light missing inside. He lays down and turns off the light. So I think it's safe to say we keep the lights on even at nighttime in this house. The next day, we're greeted by an electrician and an exterminator. They wonder why he's putting more money into the house, if he plans to donate it back to the town. The town plans to bulldoze the lot and create a community park in honor of the working class people of the area. Sounds great to me, but our boy Harlow has already got a taste of the high life. He isn't planning on donating the mansion to the town.
Maxon said that...
Well, Mr. Maxon doesn't own this house. I do. This is my house. Now just finish your work and leave.
You got it, Mr. Winton.
That's right, Mr. Winton. You treat me with respect.
Do you see that, guys? This info about our central character is setting him up for one hell of a comeuppance. Rich entitled snobs don't last too long in stories like these. As Harlow looks through a family album, a light bulb goes out and the darkness creeps up behind him. It gets very close to eating him, but then there's a knock on the door. It's the lawyer, Mr. Maxon. Harlow asked him to come since he has questions. For one, why did the lawyer tell the townspeople that he was giving up the house? Harlow is brash with the good-spirited man. Harlow insists that he has no interest in giving up the house, and he feels his family built the town up from nothing, when in reality, the working class died building this town for starvation wages and horrible working conditions. It's jarring how quickly Harlow goes from rags to riches to ruthless. He inherited last week at this point, and he's already corrupted to his core? Jeez. Harlow cites his new interests in his family he never knew. He feels a special connection to them and their accomplishments that have handsomely rewarded the man with all he could ever ask for. After shutting the door in the lawyer's face, he hears mousetraps and light bulbs smashing. He goes off to investigate it, and what he finds in the darkness is unreal. The shadows pick a mouse up from the door and start eating it. When the light turns on, the wad of mouse meat and bones slams on the ground. That's horrible and horrifying. I hate that. But this is a friendly reminder of what is to come for Harlow if he forgets to replace a single light bulb. Later that evening, the lady from the beginning of the episode arrives at the request of Harlow. She is very jumpy, and she is there only because he offered to pay her. She tells him to give the house up, just like she told his great uncle before finding his corpse. One thing the two Wittens have in common is they refuse to listen to common sense, or the townspeople, when they insist the house isn't safe. This story illustrates how horrible greed is. He asks her about the shadows, and she freaks out. Especially so when she sees a bucket with a dead rat in it. She doesn't know what the shadows are and doesn't want to be anywhere near this haunted house. Understandable. He knows how dire his situation is, and he goes around checking light bulbs. Later on, he falls asleep in a chair, and his doorbell rings. It's the lawyer, there to inform him that the community has raised $70,000 for the house. What is our boy going to do?
Our ancestors
Built this town and every single industry in it.
the people of this town built it. They gave their blood and sweat and their children's blood so that your family could wallow in luxury. Over 700 killed in the death traps of your family's coal mine.
I've read the history.
Scores more burned to death in the squalid tenements from which your family collected rent.
You know what? My family started off as poor as anyone, but we built ourselves up an empire.
My mother's father died in your mines, choking to death in the darkness.
Oh.
Yeah, predictably not great. There's no reasoning with Harlow. We learn what the shadows actually are from the lawyer. Darkness, the lack of human kindness, evil manifesting, ready to devour flesh and break bones. As his family's greed carried on, the shadows grew longer, grew hungrier. I really love the lawyer's performance in this scene. You gotta watch it, it's great. Very believable and good. Harlow thinks the shadows are nothing but fear, and that the poor, small people are trying to take his riches away from him. He's really bonding with the portrait of his great uncle. He's acclimating well to his new role as miser. This is about the time he realizes that intense lights can kill the shadows, and he has a horrible plan. So he gets a bunch of birds in cages delivered, which he plans to use as alarms. If human lives are okay to throw away, why should animals be any different for this Scrooge? He sends the shadows towards him, and as they come, the dying birds alarm him of their location. Horrible, I know, it's really bad. When the shadows go into the little tunnel he's built, he blasts them to smithereens, all the while proudly talking to the portrait of his ancestors. But little does he notice that he cast a shadow. He realizes once it latches onto his face. He resolves this by staring into strong spotlight he used before. We flash forward and we get a glimpse of his new life. Harlow is blind, and he's frantically yelling at his nurse to check the light. What a terrible position to find yourself in, but it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, I guess. So yeah, the moral of the story is don't be an insufferable rich person. So what did you think of this one? I certainly liked it. I think the central character was nutty as all hell, but there's a plenty of people like him out there. Bless their miserable, rich little hearts. The acting was spectacular, no complaints with anyone. I was very impressed and convinced. The character arc of Harlow was some of the best work we've seen yet from the writer of the episode, Erin Mayer. She also worked on Dead Air, which I recently covered, and also a segment called Switch, which I'll get to soon. Erin went on to produce and write a ton of great television, and I admire her work and her dedication to the horror genre. This one sticks out to me. As an American, I've been fed the rags to riches storyline since birth like a sad puppy. So to explore that theme in the presence of evil, angry, violent shadows is a new, interesting take. That's quite the situation to find yourself in, and I was hooked from the start. I'll happily rate this one a 9.2 out of 10 for the series Night Visions. The social commentary was appreciated. It's a good reminder that there's nothing new under the sun when it comes to staggering wealth inequality between the highest and lowest earners. It's sad but true that some people will always be viewed as expendable, just so a few fat cats and their families can prosper like royalty. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I love hearing from you. Thank you, patrons, for supporting today's videos. For just a few bucks a month, you too can help keep the lights on over here. Liking, commenting, and subscribing is amazing too, and let's be real, you're watching this till the end, you sorta like my content. Let's make it happen. Be well and stay spooky.